Hi there, I'm Gorilla Paster. Today I'm going to teach you. I'm Gorilla Paster. And today we're going to be teaching you.
I'm Gorilla Paster. What are you talking about?
About maintenance. Wheel bearing maintenance. Most service tables have wheel bearings at a 15,000 mile interval of cleaning ring pack. You probably don't know that. It equates about once a year. This used to be a routine maintenance item like greasing, your tie rod ends or your ball joints. Wheel bearings are a critical role in keeping your wheels planted firmly on the ground. And if they're not adjusted properly, it could fall off, potentially. So the first step is going to be removing this dust cover. And usually you can pop it off by hitting a screwdriver in there. And sometimes you can hit right here. It doesn't matter. There you go. Now there's always going to be a cotter pin or some locking apparatus for this nut here. On this one's a cotter pin. Now on some vehicles it may be a nut with a bolt that runs through it, like on some German vehicles like Mercedes. You're going to get this cotter pin out of the way. Right like that. Now these nuts can be finger loose like that, which is perfectly normal. You don't have to worry about that. That's its intended purpose. All right, next we're gonna have a washer right here, and the washer's gonna have this little square on it to locate it. Now your first bearing is right here. Okay, you can just simply pull the bearing off. All right, now as for a trick to get the next bearing off, you put the rotor back on, you slide the nut, you thread the nut back on just a little bit, shoot you back here, and then now you're gonna pull on the rotor, and there you go. There's your inside wheel bearing pulled out, and there's your races in your rotor. There's the inner race and the outer race. Okay, now it's time to get a little dirty. First, you're gonna take a look at your wheel bearings and just kind of inspect them, because there's no need to clean them if you have something wrong with them. So just make sure there's no pitting, no grooves, no lines, no scores, because these right here are the actual roller bearings. Those are the rollers, and the inside part is the race, and this is just the cage that holds the old bearings together, and the part that's on inside of the rotor is the race that the rollers ride on. So let's get to cleaning. So that you got your bearings all nice and clean, you're going to want to pick up some grease. Now this one I've had for a while. I've got just enough to get these done, but you can get this Valvoline. I trust it very good. This one's the GM Chrysler. It's also for European and Japanese vehicles, so multi-use. So we're going to show you the old school method of how to pack these bearings. Okay, so you get a dollop of grease like this. You put it on the palm of your hand, right there where the big fat part is. You're gonna slather it in right there. Now, you take your bearing, where the wider part is the part that you're gonna start to pack in. All right, now what you do is it's really a matter of patience and practice, and you're just gonna fold the bearing into the cup of your palm, and with every swipe it's packing just a little bit more of the grease through, and eventually you'll see it pop out the top. All right, see that? It's starting to pop out the top. Just keep going and work your way all the way around. Now that you've got your bearings packed, you're gonna wanna inspect your races in your rotor. Make sure they feel nice and smooth, no pits. And you're gonna wanna go ahead and put your inner bearing in. See your inner bearing? You put it in, you grab your wheel seal. Make sure the rubber looks okay. This one is pretty good. See your inner bearing? You put it in, you grab your wheel seal. Make sure the rubber looks okay. This one is pretty good. It's a little old, but it's my truck, so I'm gonna say go with it. I'm gonna tap that back on, and now it's time to put the rotor on. So a lot of people slather on grease right here, which is not necessary, because if you watch here, as you put that on, the inside part of this bearing shouldn't move. So if there's a lot of buildup of grease, you actually can't push the bearing on very good. Now the only thing with grease here is just put on a light amount. It ain't got to be much. If you do want, and it's just more or less for corrosion protection. That's all it does. It's nothing more. The grease doesn't do anything other than that. Now that you've got that prepped, you're going to put the rotor with the inner bearing and the wheel seal on. You're going to slap it on. Be gentle with it. And you're going to push it all the way through. Now you're going to grab your outer bearing, I'm sorry. You're going to push it in. And now where's the washer? You're going to get your washer. You're going to put it on where that tab lines up. You get your nut. You thread your nut on. And this is where the adjustment part comes into play. So all you need is a big pair of pliers like this one here. You're going to tighten the nut pretty tight. It doesn't have to necessarily be super, super tight, but you're going to get it tight. Now after you get it tight, right here, so I got it pretty tight, I'm going to go back 90 degrees, quarter turn, right there. Now the cotter pin almost lines up. I'm just going to turn it just a little bit. There we go. It's set. That's adjusted. There's no real movement on the rotor. Tightens up, spins good. That's how it should be. Now, if you don't trust my judgment on how I adjusted this, I don't blame you. There's a lot of articles on how to do it, and they do it a lot differently on different vehicles. However, this is a very tried and true method for me, and I've done it a very long time with no issues. So you can trust a proper mechanic. There you go. That's how you've adjusted, cleaned your wheel bearings.